What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a great day as always. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you guys go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Today we're going to be fixing the four-wheel drive on my Jeep WJ. So you guys watched the past couple videos. I broke the front drive shaft off-roading the other day. We just totally destroyed the joint. So now we have to fix that. So what I'm going to do is a double cardan swap in this Jeep. I'm hoping it holds up to the lift size. I know it works on a 4-inch. I'm not so sure about this. This is a 6.5-inch lift, so hopefully it holds up to those angles pretty well. I think it should do all right, but the real only concern is the length. But besides that, I think it'll work out pretty well. When you pull off the yoke on the transfer case side, you're going to want something underneath of it to catch the fluid that's going to fall out, because it's going to. Then once you have everything swapped over, you're going to want to go ahead and just top off the transfer case. That way you're not running low on fluid. So if you guys are having any trouble getting the yokes off, I would recommend picking up one of these just puller tools. You just basically clamp it onto the yoke, then twist the end, and it'll slowly pull it off to where you're going to be able to pull it off of the Jeep, no issue. The one on the transfer case is a lot harder to get off than the one on the axle, so I'm going to be using this for the transfer case side. So I got the yokes, and the first step is we're going to be converting this from the straps with the bolts to some U-bolts, because these are much stronger. They won't break off on you. They won't get stuck inside the yoke. They're just way better all around. Definitely recommend the upgrade. So we're going to have to do a little bit of drilling. So we're going to have to use a Dremel, grind a little bit of this down to make all this work. But it's a pretty easy and pretty straightforward mod. And it's pretty cheap because these are like $6 a piece. So with all that being said, let's just go ahead and get right into it. So as far as U-bolts go, there's a few different options you guys can pick up. I get these at like the hardware store. They're pretty good. They're actually honestly what's on the Wrangler right now, because when we did the axle swap like a year and a half ago, this is all we could get. So I'm going to be putting these on this because I actually really like these. Or you can go pick up a set of these for about $8 at the hardware store. However, the fitment on these is a little bit harder because they aren't perfectly rounded at the top. So it's a little bit harder to get them fit snugly in there. I'm going to be using these. They were like $6 a piece or something. Super, super cheap. And they work really well. They're super strong and they've held up in the Wrangler to plenty of abuse over the last 2 years. So I'm sure they'll do just fine in this Jeep until we get the 1-tons under it. So step one is you're going to want to get a drill bit a little bit bigger than the size of the U-bolt, and then drill out all 4 corners of this. So I'm going to go ahead and drill out all 4, catch up with you guys once I'm done that. All right, guys, so now that we got all the holes drilled in this for the U-bolts, we're going to have to grind down the back to make room for all the bolts to go through, and just make sure that we can tighten everything down correctly. So I've gone ahead, clamped it down in the vise, got out the Dremel with the bit we're going to be using. Now we just have to grind down the inside of this a little bit. So as you can see with the one side grinding it down, the nut is able to go all the way up and sit tight. So we're going to go ahead and repeat that on every other side. That way they can all be on there. This will be nice and tight and we don't have to worry about anything. Also, if you guys notice, these are pretty long right now. So once we get in the Jeep, we're going to measure and then we'll have to cut some of this off. That way we don't hit any of the seals on the pinion or anything like that. So I got the other side all wrapped up. We've gone ahead, grinded all that down. Now I'm just going to test fit the U-bolt, make sure the nuts can sit all the way down. So now that we've gone ahead and got our U-bolts, we're going to go ahead and extend these threads down some because they're not quite long enough to get a nice tight fit on this. So we're going to go ahead and just continue the threads on down the U-bolt. So as you can see, the one on the left, the threads have been continued and we'll be able to put a nut on there. Then the one on the right is the reason we're going to go ahead and have to continue these threads. The one on the right, we'll just have to do the same thing as we did on the left, and then we'll be able to put these U-bolts in the Jeep after we grind down some of the inside the yoke so that the nut can sit as far down as we can possibly get it. So now that we got U-bolts in both sides, I do have to thread this side a little bit higher. That's why there's a little bit of a gap. We're going to go ahead and cut these bolts down to size. So as you can see how they sit right now, they're definitely too long. So we're going to go ahead and just mark where we want to cut them and then take like the angle grinder or something and just chop them off. That way it'll fit in the Jeep. We'll be able to install these nuts on the Jeep and everything like that. So I'm going to go ahead, rethread this one just so it's a little bit higher. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut these off. Then it's time to put them under the Jeep and get four-wheel drive back in our Jeep. So I've gone ahead, cut down the bolts. They're the correct size now to where they won't rub on anything and they'll be perfect for this application. So now that these are cut, I'm going to go ahead and paint the yoke. That way it doesn't rust. Then we'll be all set to reinstall this thing in the Jeep and get the drive shaft installed. That should fix all of our four-wheel drive issues. And just like that, with a fresh coat of paint, this thing is ready to install, and it turned out so perfect. It looks brand new again. So let's go ahead, get this back underneath the Jeep. That way we can go wheeling this weekend and not need to be pulled out every 5 minutes. All right, so I got the yoke put back on the axle side. Pretty simple. I mean, it just slides on the splines, put the nut on, and then torque it all down. You want to make sure these are torqued right and everything's set up correctly. Next step is installing the drive shaft, which is a little bit tricky on these because you do have to extend them a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this side first because I can rotate this side easily with the transfer case in two-wheel drive and then line it up with this side. All right, so I got the transfer case side started and this side's not. What I'm gonna do is slide the U-joint underneath of the bolt there just to hold it in place and get everything set up. That way you can stretch it and hold it, because there's no way I can hold this for that long. Now that we've gone ahead and got this side wrapped up, we've also gone ahead and tightened up this side. Super simple install. It took maybe 5 minutes to get this all in there. Torqued everything down to spec. Now we have U-bolts instead of straps, which is a huge upgrade. They turned out perfect and they're way stronger than straps. And that side is done. So that basically wraps up this install. It was a super simple install, and now I have four-wheel drive again. We'll be able to go back out on the trails this weekend. The plan for this weekend is to go back out to Austin's, make a video of the Grand Cherokee versus the YJ, and then also the Grand Cherokee versus my JKU. Kind of like a little comparison competition video. I think that'll be really, really cool and a whole lot of fun. I also want to make a more in-depth video on these Radar tires and my off-road impressions on them. I do really like them so far, but I want to make a better video on those as well. Hopefully these drive shafts last us and they work throughout the weekend, and we don't really have any more four-wheel drive issues because that's really annoying. But if they do go bad again, I'm just going to go ahead and order some new ones. I didn't want to because when we're building these, we're going to need new drive shafts anyway. So that means I'd have to order 2 sets once these axles are done. However, if I have to, I have to. We're going to go ahead and get to work on these soon. So these probably will be ready within a few months. At this point, it's kind of just a waiting game for parts. And whenever those arrive, I've ordered some of the beginning parts we're going to need to get this thing going and to get this 1-ton swap underway. I haven't ordered everything yet, but I got the basics ready. I still have a ton of work to do on these housings. I have to clean them up. I have to go ahead and cut all the old brackets off and just finish cleaning the axles basically and getting them ready for trusses. As far as building goes, we're going to focus on the front first because there's a lot more involved with that than there is in the rear. I'm going to build the ring, or I'm going to install the ring and pinion, the carrier, all that kind of stuff first. I'm going to do the trusses, that way they can bolt in. We'll do the carrier, ring and pinion, all that stuff. The rest of it's fairly easy to install and fairly easy to get done underneath of the Jeep. These are going to be so cool once we get them done and once we get everything wrapped up. And this Jeep on 1-tons, it's just going to be crazy. But in the meantime, you guys are going to get a ton of episodes on building these 1-ton axles. But that basically wraps up this video. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.